Broadcasting from an undisclosed location under a farm pond somewhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. Good evening, everybody. Hey, this is the first episode since after ICAST. So glad to be back here on Slickfish Radio with everybody. We have a very good guest tonight that we're going to get to in a little bit. We have Jason Deboer, who is a large river fisheries ecologist specializing in the Illinois and Mississippi rivers. So I have a lot of questions to ask him tonight about the state of both rivers and just see what's going on there. So appreciate a lot of you joining me for the lives we did from ICAST. I hope you got a lot of information out of those. They sure were a lot of fun to do. And ICAST was crazy. I think there's over 12,000 people in attendance and over 70 countries represented. We got people commenting already. John, hi, John. Brad Van Beaver, hey, from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Brad, how are you? James Earlham. James, nice to see you. Again, thanks, everybody, for joining in. We're going to give away tonight to a Wire to Fish TV hat and have some cool information for you on that as well. But I was just talking about ICAST for a minute, and I wanted to continue that. A lot of great new products, a lot of cool stuff coming out. And if you didn't see some of the lives, you can go back on the Jim Crowley Facebook page and go back. We did a bunch of lives there. We also did them on our Instagram page, which is starting to grow. So if you haven't followed Jim Crowley Outdoors on Instagram, please do that, because we're doing a lot. We're going to be doing more lives there, as well as some reels and some other fun stuff. So we appreciate you joining us there. We had a great time at ICAST with American Tackle. And of course, I want to thank them for helping bring this show to you tonight. American Tackle was great. They brought out that new kids combo that was received very, very well at ICAST to help with autism anglers. And the booth was crowded all the time. If you saw any of the videos or saw the show that I did on Wire to Fish TV from ICAST, it was jam-packed all the time. A lot of fun. Some of you have asked in the past, hey, Jim, when are you going back to La Crosse? Well, I'm going next week. We're going to finish up season 1 of Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wire to Fish TV next week and hook up with my buddy Jeremiah Bursch again in La Crosse. Probably doing do a show on Main River stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. The weather's supposed to be beautiful next week. If you have not had a chance to check out La Crosse, do it. Go to explorelacrosse.com. There's so much more to do there besides fishing. It's an absolutely incredible destination, and without question, one of my favorites. From Florida, Craig Kloss is joining us. Hi, Craig. How are you? And Shields. Hey, hunting season is right around the corner. Dove season starts September 1st. If you need to stock up, go to Shields. If you're in the Springfield, Illinois areas, they are without question the best store in Illinois, and just a magnificent, magnificent place. Big Ferris wheel there, big saltwater aquarium, good family fun destination. And we are powered, as always, by our friends at Dakota Lithium. Now, if you saw one of the lives that I did from ICAST, I was talking with Craig Storm from Dakota Lithium, a lot of new products. And that is the reason. Hey, again, Wong is with us again. Hey, we had a great time at ICAST, didn't we, buddy? That was fun. Good to see you. Dakota has a lot of great products and a lot of new stuff for the angler, and just a lot of great new batteries. That's why they are top of the line in the industry when it comes to lithium. So go to dakotalithium.com. All right. So without further ado, I am going to bring in our guest, Jason Deboer. Jason, thanks for joining us tonight, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Hey, we just like I told people, you are a fisheries ecologist, that you work with the big rivers a lot, the Illinois Mississippi River. How'd you get into that? Was that just from college, or is that something you went into after that?
That was the first job that I got after I finished up my graduate program at the University of Nebraska. Saw the advertisement online and applied for it, interviewed, and nearly 10 years later, here I am.
Well, you're batting 1,000. Not bad. That's pretty good. And, you know, you are a smallmouth fanatic like me. We had just a little bit of chance to talk just before the show started. So I know the story I have about why I got hooked on smallmouth bass. Tell me yours.
Well, I'm a native son of Michigan, and so growing up in that northern tier of states, smallmouth is one of the premier sport fish that we get to chase. And I had a couple of uncles who introduced me to fishing at a young age, my Uncle Don and my Uncle Steve. Um, and that kind of got me hooked, for better or for worse, on fishing as a hobby and as a passion. And smallmouth are just, pound for pound, the gamest fish that swims.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're just awesome. You consider yourself a multi-species angler like I do. I mean, I don't care if it's got fins. I want to fish for it. And your sister station, I think, as you put it, is the one down in Havana. So I want to get right to asking some questions about that, because once those Asian carp got into the Illinois River years and years ago, I think it started after the floods in the 90s, late 90s, I think. I could be wrong, but if I remember back that far. How is what are you guys seeing on sampling as far as maybe bass, walleye, catfish? How is the health of the Illinois River compared to what you've seen in years past?
So the health of the river, the Illinois River in particular, depending on which aspect we want to talk about, is either better than it has been in years past or worse than it has been in years past. So water quality was a huge issue at the turn of the last century, in the early 1900s and even in the 1920s. There was so much water pollution coming down from Chicago that the river was biologically dead for over 100 miles downstream of Chicago.
Oh.
But due to, water quality reform and the efforts in and around the city of Chicago and nationwide, water quality in a lot of our large rivers, the Illinois River in particular, has improved a lot, since the 1950s, but especially since the 1970s with the passage of the Clean Water Act. So I guess in the upper river, water quality has improved and continues to improve. However, in the lower river, we're dealing with other issues like sedimentation, the loss of a lot of our backwater lakes to sedimentation, filling in and things like that. So on one hand, water quality is improving. On the other hand, we're losing a lot of our habitat as those backwater lakes start to fill in, especially in the lower river. And that could be problematic for things like largemouth bass, bluegill, black crappie, white crappie, fish that are nest builders. They have more stable off-channel habitat in the upper river in the person of marinas and boat slips and, dockyards and things like that, and even a few backwater lakes. But in the lower river, those populations are in a little bit worse shape because of those backwater lakes being a little bit more degraded or substantially more degraded in the lower river. And that just makes it hard for those fish to survive, especially over winter. So when we get the right combination of a good water year and, the river's hydrograph doing what it's naturally supposed to do, then those fish in the lower river can pull off a successful spawn and can recruit and form a year class. And that'll carry the fishery for, 2 or 3 or 4 years. But things are a little bit more stable, I would say, in the upper river, a little more episodic or even cyclical down in the lower river.
Now, when you say upper river, just for our areas, for where I used to fish a lot, Peoria, Havana, things like that, are those the backwater areas that would be in a little bit of danger because of sedimentation?
Yeah, so we tend to classify the Illinois River into an upper river and a lower river based on that big bend at Hennepin.
Okay.
So basically Dresden, Marcel's, and Starved Rock Pools would be the upper river, and then Peoria, LaGrange, and Alton would be the lower river.
So are you seeing from Hennepin, like Starved Rock area up there, are you seeing good water quality there? I know the walleye fishing can be good there. What are you guys seeing up there as far as quality of fish goes, and just whatever fish, it doesn't matter. What are you seeing up there?
So I know that the Spring Valley Walleye Club does a lot of tournaments and has a pretty good fishery up there. Walleye and sauger aren't something that we sample routinely in our community surveys. We're not out targeting sport fish in our surveys. It's an entire fish community kind of survey. And that tends to lend itself better towards fish like bass, bluegill, crappie, catfish, at least as far as sport fish goes. But we catch a lot of minnows and a lot of shad and a lot of our other non-game fish too, like suckers and buffalo. But as far as the upper river goes, largemouth bass and smallmouth bass in particular, especially in the last 15 years or so are really starting to increase in abundance, at least in our surveys. That doesn't always translate to more fish in the boat for anglers, but.
Now, do you think this has got to have a little bit something to do with it? Because I consider myself, especially when water gets clear, as a forage-based angler, especially when we're talking about smallmouth and even walleyes for that matter. Now, as that water quality is better up there, are you guys seeing an increase? You mentioned minnows and everything. I'm guessing that since the water quality is better, the forage is also better up in those areas. Is that true, or does it just vary from where you are in the river?
It can vary from year to year. A lot of those populations are very boom and bust on the bait fish. Your gizzard shad, your emerald shiners, and the dozens of other shiner species that we have up there. Those tend to vary quite a bit from year to year. But you're absolutely right. As that water quality improves and as water clarity improves in those upper three pools, the bass and crappie and even walleye and sauger, they have a pretty good time being able to see and catch those fish, which that can make it harder on anglers too. If the fish have full bellies, they're not going to want to bite a drop shot or a crankbait or a spinnerbait
or anything. Sometimes,
sometimes. That's the one advantage we have. We're using electricity to catch fish.
Darn, I wish I would have thought about that. It's so much easier than dynamite. It just really, truly is.
A little bit safer too. A little bit, not a whole lot.
It is. What do you see in catfishing wise? We have a lot of anglers in the audience that and there's a lot of big cats being caught throughout Illinois. But how is the river populations? Again, you can say upper or lower pool, but what do you guys see in there in big cats?
So there's a pretty robust channel catfish population in the upper Illinois River, but your blues and your flatheads tend to hang out a little bit more in the low river, especially, down towards the Alton Pool and then into the confluence area with the Mississippi. The lower Mississippi in particular, down around St. Louis and down into the open river is phenomenal for big blue cats. They're one of the few native species that we have that can actually consume the invasive carp species that we have. Not when the carp are adults, when they're smaller bodied, but one of my colleagues and good friends, Tad Locker, who's a district biologist for Illinois DNR now, did his graduate research on blue cat diets in the middle part of the Mississippi River there in towards southern Illinois. Found out that they're eating quite a bit of invasive carps. So yeah, the flatheads and the blues, like I said, they tend to hang out a little bit more in those bigger sections of the river, LaGrange Pool on down, and then in the middle part of the Miss. But a lot of those fisheries are doing really well right now.
That's great. Hey, I'm going to say hi to some people here. A bunch of people just came on. Jason, Tony, Doug, Brooke. That's my daughter, my beautiful daughter. And Josiah, how you doing, buddy? Glad to have you all on here tonight. Hey, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with Jason. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mississippi River and see how that is doing. But I want to let you guys know something. We are going to give away a Wired to Fish TV hat tonight. So you need to watch this break, which I call 2 and 2, which Chuck Woolery used to do. And that's when we will be back. But that's exactly it. That's exactly that. We're just showing our age and good programming. So we'll be back in 2 and 2, but watch these because the question to win this Wired to Fish TV hat is going to come from these breaks. We'll be back with Jason Deboer right after this. American Tackle is home to the award-winning microwave line control system. Rod blanks to reel seats, ferrules to finish, grips to guides. They're committed to the very best in rod building components. Find out more, americantackle.us. With fishing beyond your expectations, indoor and outdoor activities, a vast variety of places to eat, drink, and stay. Discover your next adventure between the bluffs. ExploreLaCrosse.com. Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever. Go to Shields.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan and harnessing their unique chemistry and engineering know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passion with an 11-year warranty. Find out more, DakotaLithium.com.
Slickfish Radio with Jim Crowley can be seen and heard on Roku, Fire TV, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iTunes.
There we go. Come here. Get in here. Yeah. Nice fish right there. Hi, I'm Jim Crowley. Make sure you catch my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Wired to Fish TV. Look for Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV on free ad-supported streaming TV, including Plex, that can be downloaded in the App Store at Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and others. We are back with our guest, Jason Deboer, and we are going to be talking to Mississippi River here in a minute. But as I told you, we're going to be giving away a Wired to Fish TV hat. And so the question I have is, if you were watching that, what time does my show come on, Pacific and or Midwest? I'll take any one of the answers. I'll give you this. It comes on Monday through Friday, but what is the time? You guys answer that question correctly, and the first person who answers it correctly will get a Wired to Fish TV hat. So there you go. What time does Jim Crowley Outdoors and Wired to Fish TV come on? Aha! James Yarlum. James, you are correct, and you win 4 p.m. So I will get it. James, you are quick on the draw. I'll get a hold of you after the show is over. I'll get your address. Man, you guys are really chiming in right now, but James is quick. He is quick on the draw, dude. All right. Thanks, everybody else. Hey, and Ed, you're wrong. It's my other show, not this one. Anyway, thanks for chiming in. Hey, Jason, let's get to, I want to talk a little bit about the Mississippi River, because I love fishing the Mississippi. Back in my tournament days, I love fishing 13, and I also like fishing 18 and 19. And what is the state of the Mississippi River these days? It seems like the farther north you go, the fishing does get rather incredible. But I want to stick to Illinois. So how's it looking on the Mississippi River for not just bass, but other species that come to mind?
So the Mississippi didn't have as far to come back as the Illinois did, not having the third largest city in North America in its headwaters. So it didn't suffer the water quality degradation, at least to the degree that the Illinois River did. And thus its fishing, like I said, didn't have as far to come back. Walleye and sauger on 13 and 14, and smallmouth for that matter too, and largemouth for that matter. I've got a friend who works for a power plant up in that area, and when they do their surveys for spawn and walleye, they can't dip enough walleye and sauger in the springtime up there.
Wow.
Their gear is saturated. So like you said, it tends to be that the farther north you go, at least for those cool water species like smallmouth and walleye and sauger, that the fishing just gets better and better. That said, the middle parts of the river, pool 16, 17, 18, 19 are also really good. You saw our Facebook post for the Illinois River Biological Station, who I worked for last week, about that nice 4.5-pound largemouth that we caught right outside Montrose, Iowa. Like I said, our survey designs aren't targeted for catching sport fish, but if we end up in the right place at the right time, then we do start to see some of those larger specimens and as much aquatic vegetation as is in pool 19. It's a phenomenal largemouth and northern pike fishery too.
Sure. And, when you said you weren't targeting, and I'm going to ask a question that just came to mind. When you said you're not targeting sport fish, is that because the basis, you're targeting the basis, like the minnows and the bait fish, maybe young of the year, whatever you get, is that what you base everything on, about seeing how healthy that population is? I honestly just don't know. So that's why I'm asking.
So the gear that we use post-DC electrofishing, and when we do shoreline surveys along the river, oftentimes we just end up on an 18-inch deep mud flat, and there's not much there besides shad and shiners and maybe some young of your freshwater drum or things like that. So we do enough surveys and enough habitats and we do these for enough years in a row that we can track those changes over time. So we can track changes in the largemouth bass population over time, given the number that we catch, or channel catfish, or gizzard shad, or emerald shiners, because different parts of that fish community are going to respond to different environmental changes, whether that's invasive species like invasive carps, whether that's clean water legislation like the Clean Water Act, whether it's habitat rehabilitation and enhancement projects that the Army Corps of Engineers and USGS do on the Mississippi and Illinois rivers. So we track not just one species in particular, but that entire fish community.
Sure.
And that allows us to track changes over time in that fish community. And we use that kind of as our metric for some kind of overall river health. You know, we can look at individual organism health too, looking at wounds or lesions and tumors or deformities in fish. And we can track changes in those things in relation to proximity to Chicago or proximity to other large tributaries and things like that.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. Is just I wanted to get some of the background information and stuff that a lot of us don't know. I mean, it's always fun to go out and get the hottest new lure, and and go fishing for whatever. But I guess where I'm leading with this is what we can do as anglers, as people. I'm on the water a lot, and a lot of the people who watch the show are on it whenever they can. And so what are some of the things we can do? Because from what I've heard from you, and I guess I knew this, but it was really nice to hear from somebody who's in the profession that you are. It takes a lot of things to make water quality and a water system, whether it be a lake, reservoir, river system, tidal, whatever. It takes a lot of it to make it work good. I mean, there's a lot of stewards of our resource. To me, is always very good. I've always said fishermen, anglers, and hunters are the best conservationists there are. And so what can we do? Is there something that comes to mind that we can do every time we get to a body of water that may help to improve? Even it's, you can't help a lot if you don't start by a little. And so is there something that comes to mind that we can all do, whether we're walking the bank or in a boat or whatever, that we can help our systems?
So a few things come to mind as I'm thinking, as you're asking that question. First and foremost is buy your fishing license.
Right.
So many of the habitat projects and the statewide projects like the one that I work on are funded through your license dollars and through federal match on those dollars, whether that's hunting or fishing. And then of course the excise taxes on fish, sporting gear, marine fuel, things like that. The second thing I can think of is pick up your stuff when you're done fishing with it. Yes. As an angler and as a tree hugger myself, there's nothing that upsets me more than seeing empty worm containers and Gatorade bottles and beer cans and
no reason for it
laying next to the Walmart bag that you brought them all in when there's a trash can in the parking lot that you have to walk past to get to your truck. Be a good steward of the resource.
Right.
Don't throw fish on the bank, whether you think they're native or preferential or not.
Right.
And like you said, it takes a good system, and so much of that happens outside of the state of Illinois or outside of your district biologist's purview. They can do what they can with management plans for their lakes and again calling for stocking and doing their surveys, but there's not much that we as river biologists can do about what comes downriver from Chicago.
Right. So and that's unfortunately that's a sinking ship. Anyway, sure. Sinking ship. Anyway, but I agree. When you go out to the lake, if you see, hey guys, here's just something, and ladies, here's something. If you see something floating in the water, pick it up. I'm not saying you have to pick up everything, but pick something up. If you go to a farm pond, somebody has you to a farm pond, or if you go to a small lake or river, walking the bank, just like Jason, I can't tell you from going to Clinton Lake to going to Dawson Lake, aggravates the living crap out of me when I see people leave their junk behind. Pick it up. And a lot of people watching the show, I'm listening to this, I know you're not the ones. You better not be. Because I'd be upset if I was that person doing that. But we should at least do everything the best we can. Pick something up. Even if it's one thing, make a little extra effort. The best things in life come from effort. And if we have to make a little bit extra effort to pick something up, just one thing, at the very least, don't ever leave anything behind and leave your responsibility to somebody else. Please don't ever do that. Just pick up what you can. Like he said, pick up your bags. You know what? It is ours. And there are people out there who don't want us to fish and don't want us to hunt. And when they see trash laying around like that, it's never a good reflection on us, no matter whether you're fishing or hunting. So please, sometimes it's those of us who love to do it that have to make a little bit of the extra effort, but that's okay. Because Jason and I we were talking about this a little bit before. We both consider ourselves Christians, which means we both have a lot to work on ourselves. you know, and if we can do better things to make a better thing the way God intended, I believe we should do that. But I can't preach that to everybody unless I don't do it myself. So you know what? Next time I go to the lake from here on out, I'm gonna start picking up one thing, even if it's not mine, and doing something, because I really do think that we can all make it a better place and a better environment, because it's beautiful to be out there. Let's keep it clean and let's do the best we can to do that. Jason, I really appreciate you being on tonight, man. There's some good information that you passed on tonight that I just didn't know. If anybody wants to find out more about what you do, or just about the Illinois Mississippi rivers, is there a good website that they can go to find out some of that information? Some of them may want to read it on their own.
Sure, you can find our website, Illinois River Biological Station. I don't remember the web address because it's part of the U of I system. But if you just Google Illinois River Biological Station, you can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on our website. You can track down our emails or message us on Facebook, and that'll get its way to us.
Well, I appreciate your time and all the information that you gave us, and hopefully maybe we'll run into each other. I mean, if it's through Pat Gregory this year, chances are you and I are probably going to be having a burger and a beer somewhere together.
It'd be nice to share a duck blind too.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Oh, that's especially at Pat's Club. We can do that. That's always a good time. Let's both bug him about that. And
I think we can make that happen. Yeah.
I think we can, because he needs some help there. And I think you and I might be the guys to do that. God bless you, my friend. I thank you for your time, and thank you so much for joining us here on Slickfish Radio.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
What a great guest. Jason's a great guy. Look at all you chimed in tonight and joined us tonight. God bless all of you for doing this. I really appreciate all of you. I say this a lot, but the show continues to grow, and we're seeing it in different markets. And I really, truly do appreciate it. I'm glad you're all having a good time and liking this. James Yarlam, I'll contact you after the show here tonight. We'll get you that hat. I want to thank again the companies that help do us, and your guys' support of some of these companies. I've been hearing it from them. American Tackle Company. Hey, Ed, thanks. Great show, Jimmy Fish. Thank you, Ed. I really appreciate that. I'm going to give you guys a little banner here from our friends at American Tackle. If you want 20% off anything from American Tackle, go to AmericanTackleAnglerProducts.com. Check out their rods. Check out their reels. Check out everything. All you got to do is put in that code JC20. You get 20% off. How awesome is that? That is great. Go to AmericanTackleAnglerProducts.com. Put in a code JCO20 and you get 20% off. My good friend Craig Claus from Florida actually told us this. He gave us this. He's a big sponsor of the Jim Crowley Outdoors Show and Where to Fish. And Best Sunglasses, we're actually working on something that I can't tell you about right now, but we are working on something. Go to Fish 419 Sunglasses. Put in the code Thanks JC. He upped it from 10% to 15% off. If you're in the Shields, Springfield, Illinois, they have the hugest selection of Fish 419 glasses there is. Go there and check out the styles. Put them in your hands. If you're from out of state, like a lot of you are watching this, just go to fish419.com and you can put in the code Thanks JC and you will get 15% off. So that's pretty cool. Let me get that banner out of there, and then I'm going to tell you something here. So coming up next couple weeks, I'm just looking at, we have some awesome guests coming up. Next week we won't have a show, and then the next 2 weeks after that we will. And there's going to be we have some great guests, some great information, and a lot of fun. And as always, more giveaways. So I want to thank you again, all of us joining us tonight here on Slickfish Radio. And if you have the chance, please check out my other show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday on Wired to Fish TV. God bless you all. See you soon.